What's up guys, welcome back to InvestingPH. For today, we will evaluate another power company and is the leading renewable energy provider in our country, which is FGEN Corporation. Now, I will also discuss later why I really love this company and I really want to invest in it, but I can't. So let's get started. Again, before we start, would really much appreciate it if you click the like button, and if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, please do so right now. Now to get started, like all power companies, we have evaluated. What I really look for is, are they stepping into a much more greener approach in producing electricity? Are they stepping into the renewables? Well, let's see for FGEN. So who is FGEN Corporation? They were incorporated on December 22, 1998 as a subsidiary of First Philippine Holdings Corporation, or FPH, one of the oldest and largest conglomerates in the Philippines that has interest in power generation, power distribution, infrastructure, manufacturing, and property development. Although FGEN was established only in 1998, it traces its roots back to FPH's pioneering power development efforts in 1993. That year, FPH won the bid to design, build, and operate the 225 megawatts Bawang diesel power plant under a build-operate-transfer scheme. It successfully completed an IPO of its common shares on the PSE in February 2006. Now, this is their corporate and shareholding structure. FGEN is under FPH, and all their power business is through FGEN. Their businesses are, let's start with their natural gas power plants. So these are the location of the 4 plants. Now, natural gas has 60% less carbon dioxide emission compared to the normal coal-fired power plant. And another advantage, it has no ash or sludge residue. Their first plant is Santa Rita Combined Cycle Natural Gas-Fired Power Plant, a 1,000 megawatt capacity. Second, San Lorenzo Combined Cycle Natural Gas-Fired Power Plant has a 500 megawatt capacity. Third, Avion Open Cycle Natural Gas-Fired Power Plant has a 97 megawatt capacity. And fourth, San Gabriel Combined Cycle Natural Gas-Fired Power Plant, a 420 megawatt capacity, which is the most efficient natural gas-fired plant in the Philippines. Next up is their geothermal power plants. So this is through using natural heat and steam. This is in their subsidiary, which is Energy Development Corporation, EDC, which is the world's largest vertically integrated geothermal company. Under here, they operate 12 geothermal power plants ranging from 54 megawatts up to 232.5 megawatts. These are the locations of those plants. Next is their hydropower plants. These are the location of their 2 hydro plants. First is Pantabangan Masiway Hydroelectric Power Plant. This has a 132 megawatt capacity, and the other is Agusan Mini Hydroelectric Plant, which has a capacity of 1.6 megawatts. Next, their wind power plants. This is located in Ilocos Norte. This has a 150 megawatt capacity. Lastly is their solar power plant. They have 5 solar plants which ranges from 5.2 megawatts to 6.8 megawatts capacity. These are the locations of the plants. So looking at all of their plants, which is located on different regions of the Philippines, they now have a total of 3,495 megawatts of electricity. And all of this comes from renewable energy sources. Although natural gas still emits an amount of carbon dioxide, it is by far so much better compared to its counterpart, the coal-fired plants. We can really see FGEN leads the renewable energy approach in our country. These are the breakdown of their electricity production. Natural gas is the biggest, and next is from their geothermal power plants. The projects they are planning for the future are natural gas power plants, which has a 1,200 megawatt capacity, and hydro plants and another geothermal power plant. Although they didn't specify the date of completion, looks like it's still in the planning and proposal stage. Now we go on to their financials. So we would still be following our checklist in evaluating their company. Now there's a slight difference between FGEN since their financial reports are in the US dollar currency. Although it's still the same in the ratios, doesn't affect that one. So you might just be confused when looking at their financials that they have a very low numbers because it's in the dollar currency. Don't know why they report it like that. Anyway, moving on. First is their income statement. Now, like almost all the power company, we can see the revenue and net income fluctuates yearly. Looking at the revenue first, we can see it slightly decreased from 2013 to 2016 and going back again from 2017 onwards, except for 2020 of course. Now, even with this negative, the revenue average growth rate from 2010 to 2020 is at 6.23%. Moving on to their net income. This tells us a different story. The negative growth years decrease. This we can see they only had few years that had negative growth, and the following year after that had exponential growth. With this, their net income average growth rate for 10 years is 48.10%, really higher compared to their 6.23% revenue growth rate. Now, this is also because of their net income margin going higher in some years. Now, if we compare FGEN's net income margin, they have lower margins compared to AP and SPC. Now, this is also because of their nature of business. SPC has the highest, but if you watch my analysis of SPC, they are the only one that has no renewable energy plans. Comparing it to AP, AP has 20% margin for 10 years. It's lower compared to SPC since it has a mixed portfolio of both RE and conventional plants. Meanwhile, FGEN has 100% RE portfolio. By the way, if you haven't yet watched my analysis for AP, SPC, and ASEN, if you want to watch it, there's a link in the description below. Anyway, with this, it's a check for me. Moving on to their balance sheet, we can see even in this pandemic, their equity had a positive growth. They only had a few years of negative growth. With this, they have an average equity growth of 10.84%. Another check. Next up is their ROE. So with this, we look at their 5-year ROE average. With this, they have an ROE of 9.10%. This ratio tells us how efficient a company is producing net profits from its equity. So if we compare their ROE to its competitor, AP has an ROE of 14.50% and SPC has 17.64%. So we can see they have a low ROE. With this, it's an X for me, although it's still in a good range, so this is one thing to take note on. Moving on, let's see if they aren't relying on too much debt to increase their ROE growth. This is a debt to equity ratio, so this is computed by dividing liabilities to equity. With this, we get 0.93, really low. What we want here is for debt to equity to be below 2. With this, another check. Comparing it to AP has 1.96 debt to equity and SPC 0.08. Next, we look at their cash flow statements. Here, we want to look at if their FCF is growing year after year. This is computed by cash from operations minus capital expenditures. With this, we can see they only had a negative growth in 2020. And if we look at their cash from operations in 2017 to 2019, it's really increasing year after year. Now, even with the negative growth of FCF in 2020, this is still a check for me since this pandemic, guys, almost all companies had negative growth. It is the same for other companies as well. AP also has the same growth, also negative in growth in 2020, while SPC had a small positive growth in 2020. Moving on, let's see if they can pay up their long-term debt in just under 3 years using their free cash on hand. So we look at their long-term debt. This is seen in the balance sheet. With this, if we divide it using their FCF, we get 3.25. Quite close. Now, although it's an X for our list, this is one thing to take note on. It's still quite close. And if we compare it to their competitors, AP will take 6 years, SPC has no long-term debt. Next, we look at if they are handling their short-term obligations well or their short-term debt. This is the current ratio. This is computed by current assets divided by current liabilities. With this, we get 1.54, meaning they have 1.54 pesos of current assets for every 1 peso of current liabilities. So this is a check. What we want here is for this ratio to be between 1 and 2. Comparing it to AP has 1.38, SPC has 9.71. Next, we look at their PE ratio. So their PE ratio is only 7.41. This means you are paying 7.41 peso to earn 1 peso. Another check since what we want here is for this to be below 15. Moving on to their dividends. FGEN regularly pays out dividends. Though not that high, their 2020 yield is only 1.95% for the current price. So if your sole purpose is dividends, this may not be the stock for you. But anyway, it's still a check for me. Next, does the company have a moat? Well, it's really clear that FGEN has a good competitive advantage since they have a large renewable energy portfolio. Actually, their whole portfolio is renewable energy. And also their financials are solid, well-handled long-term and short-term debt, and they have a quite consistent growth. With this, it's definitely a check for me. Next is the company governed by a good leader. Their chairman and CEO is Federico R. Lopez. So Sir Federico has handled the company for a very long time and has also handled a lot of company. With how well the company has grown so far, we can see the company is in good hands. With this is a check for me. Lastly, is it within my buy below price? My computed intrinsic value for them is 31.73. Having a 30% margin of safety, my buy below price is 22.2. Now this answers what I said a while ago. I really like the company, but sadly I wasn't able to invest in it since it's beyond my buy below price. I really want to support power companies that is going into a renewable energy approach. But still, it has to be in the price I wanted, which is below my buy below price. Although its price went down last year, from March to May of 2020, I wasn't able to buy at that time, since basically lack of capital during that time and I was still investing in certain companies. Now, its price has technically gone past its price before the crash. Really sad. So they scored 10 out of 12. Although they failed in the ROE, it's still in a good range. Their long-term debt as well, failing by just a small number. So they almost scored a perfect score in my list. Anyway, I really like how well FGEN has a 100% RE portfolio and is still venturing further to increase their capacity. Let's see in the future if I would be able to buy this company. Now, I think we've almost completed the analysis of most power companies here in our country. The only one left is I think Meralco. Although it's mainly on the power distribution side, let's see, it's another content for us. I really hope all power companies in the future would have a much larger RE portfolio and to slowly wave goodbye from the conventional approach, which is diesel and coal-fired power plants that produces a lot of carbon emission. We can really see the effects of global warming, guys, and if we don't change our ways, especially in the electricity production, which is the top contributor of emissions, chances are our investments would be for nothing if the world would end due to the pollution mankind has done. Anyway, I hope you guys got a lot of info in this video. If I miss out on some information, would really appreciate it if you comment it down below for all of us to see. So if you like the content of this video and still haven't yet pressed that like button, you might as well do it now. Likewise, if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, do so right now. So see you in the next video.